Every single day, people walk around living a story they didn't write. They're walking through life as a character in someone else's book, someone else's expectations, someone else's limitations, someone else's fears. And maybe you've felt that. Maybe you've looked in the mirror and asked yourself, how did I get here? And not in terms of where you are physically, but emotionally, spiritually. Deep down, there's a version of you you know you were meant to be. But somewhere along the way, the pen slipped out of your hand and life started writing your story for you. But let me tell you something you may have forgotten. You are the author, not the character. That story you're living, that pain you've gone through, that label someone slapped on you when you were too young to even defend yourself, that's not the whole story, that's a paragraph, that's a plot twist. That's not the end, and the beautiful, powerful truth is this. The moment you decide to take that pen back, everything begins to change. Life has tried to convince you that your past defines you. That what happened to you when you were young, or that one moment you failed, or that relationship that broke your heart, those moments tried to convince you that's who you are. And maybe, without realizing it, you started believing it. You started showing up in life as someone smaller than you were created to be. You started playing roles that made other people comfortable but made your soul miserable. You started settling, accepting, tolerating, surviving. But let me challenge you right now. What if everything you've been through wasn't the end of your story, but the beginning of your comeback? What if you stopped letting life write you into the background and started writing your way into the future? See, there's a massive difference between living a story and writing one. When you're just living a story, things happen to you, but when you're writing the story, things start happening because of you. You are not the mistakes you've made, you are not the brokenness you've experienced, you are not the identity someone else gave you, you are a masterpiece in progress, you are a warrior in transition. You are the author, and your hand should be on the pen. You want to know what separates the people who break cycles from the people who repeat them. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's the moment they take control of their story and say, no more. I get to decide who I become. That decision is available to you today, not next week, not next year, not when you've figured it all out. The power to rewrite your life doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from having the courage to ask better questions. Who do I want to become? What story do I want to tell when this is all over? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? Most people think their life is like a movie, and they're just trying to make it to the credits. But you don't need to survive to the end. You need to rise in the middle. You need to flip the script, because here's the truth. The greatest stories are not the ones without conflict, without heartbreak, without failure. The greatest stories are the ones where the main character overcame, the ones where the person who had every reason to quit kept turning the page, the ones where pain became purpose, where wounds became wisdom, where breakdowns became breakthroughs. If you've been knocked down, that's not the end, it's just the chapter that sets up your comeback. If you felt forgotten, overlooked, underestimated, that's just the tension that makes your rise even more powerful. And if you've been living under the weight of a story that doesn't reflect your soul, it's time to drop the pen into your own hand and start writing the truth, your power, your future. You don't need permission to rewrite your life. You don't need anyone's approval to begin again. You just need a decision, that's it. One decision to take back your voice. One decision to stop playing the victim and start stepping into victory. One decision to let the past be what it was but no longer allow it to dictate what will be. I know some of you have been through things that shattered your confidence, things that made you feel invisible, things that made you question your worth, and I'm not here to dismiss your pain. I'm here to tell you that your pain is not your identity. It's not your destiny. It's just part of your story, and it doesn't get to be the whole story unless you let it. You are more than what broke you. You are more than the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. You are more than the failure you think defines you. This moment, right here, right now, can be the start of a new chapter, not because life magically got easier, not because you suddenly have no fear, but because you finally remember who holds the pen. It's you, And with that pen, you can write forgiveness into the lines where bitterness once lived. You can write courage where fear tried to take root. You can write resilience into every sentence that once spelled regret. You are not a victim of your life. You are the creator of it. That doesn't mean you control everything that happens, but it means you control what it means. You control how you respond. You control who you become because of it. And when you step into that power, life changes. The way you walk changes. The way you speak changes. The way you look in the mirror changes. Because you're no longer acting like a character waiting to be saved. You're acting like the author who's been the hero all along. And don't wait for the world to recognize it. Don't wait for people to applaud it. You start living like the person you were created to be, even if nobody else sees it yet. Even if nobody else believes in it yet. Because when you write your truth boldly, when you stop apologizing for who you are and what you've overcome, eventually the world catches up. But more importantly, you'll wake up every morning knowing that the story you're living is one worth telling. There is someone out there right now who needs your story, who needs to hear that you didn't give up, that you didn't let life finish the book without rewriting the ending, that you chose to stand back up and say, "This is not how it ends for me." Your story has the power to heal, to inspire, to lead. But it only becomes powerful when you own it, when you stop hiding behind excuses and start standing in the truth of who you were always meant to be. So today, I want you to decide that you're taking the pen back. You're not living someone else's story. You're not playing small so others can stay comfortable. You're not letting the old you make decisions for the new you. You're going to rise. You're going to speak. You're going to write. And the story you write from this moment on is going to be one of power, purpose, and passion. You are the author, not the character. Now pick up the pen and write your masterpiece. There is a story playing in your head every single day, and the truth is, it's shaping your entire life. It's not the facts of your life that determine your future. It's not your circumstances. It's not what happened to you. It's the meaning you gave those things. It's the story you've chosen to tell yourself about who you are, what you're capable of, and what your future holds. And the truth that most people don't realize is this: the story you tell yourself is the life you live. It's not just some motivational phrase. It's a fundamental truth of life. You could have two people go through the exact same storm, but one walks out stronger while the other crumbles. Why? Because one of them told a different story about what that storm meant. One told himself, "This is the end." The other said, "This is the beginning." One said, "I always fail." The other said, "This is where I rise." The words you whisper in your mind carry more power than the noise of the world. That voice in your head, it's either a weapon against your potential or a bridge to your greatness. Most people are running on autopilot. They don't even realize they're telling themselves a story, and that story has become a belief, and that belief has become their identity. And without even noticing, they wake up every day reinforcing that story with their choices, their emotions, their habits. It becomes a cycle. If you tell yourself you're not good enough, you'll start living like you're not. If you tell yourself no one cares about you, you'll show up in ways that push people away. If you keep saying you're broken, you'll never feel whole, even when healing is within reach. But here's the most important thing you need to hear. You can change the story. You can rewrite the entire narrative. You're not stuck with the script that fear wrote for you. You're not doomed to repeat the story your parents or your environment or your past gave you. You have the power right now to flip the script. That power isn't found in the opinions of others. It's found in the words you choose to believe about yourself. You've got to ask yourself, what story have I been telling myself all this time? Have I been saying, I'm too late? Have I been saying, I'll never change? Have I been stuck in a story that someone else handed me? Because if the answer is yes, it's time to realize that the pen is in your hand, and it always has been. You are the narrator. You are the voice, and what you speak to yourself determines what you experience in life. Think about the people who have truly transformed their lives. It didn't start with their bank account or their body or their relationship status. It started with their belief. It started with a new story. A man who's been addicted for years doesn't just quit because someone else believes in him. He quits when he starts to believe that freedom is possible. A woman who's been in toxic relationships for decades doesn't just walk away because she read a quote. She leaves because she finally changes the story from "I'm unlovable" to "I deserve better." The shift in identity always comes before the shift in results. And it starts with the decision to speak differently to yourself. When you catch yourself saying, "This is just how I am," stop. That's not a truth. That's a story. "This is just how I've always been" is not a limitation unless you choose to let it be. "I never follow through" isn't a fact. It's a pattern that can be broken, but it will only break when you tell a new story about who you are. Start saying, "I'm learning to be consistent. I'm growing into a finisher. I'm stepping into discipline." Your life will begin to rise to the level of the story you believe. And yes, it takes time. Rewriting the inner script doesn't happen overnight. You've been hearing the old one for years. Maybe it started when someone made you feel small. Maybe it came from a failure that humiliated you. Maybe you just absorbed it from your environment. But here's the truth. It's not yours unless you keep repeating it. You don't owe loyalty to the version of yourself that's keeping you stuck. You owe everything to the version of yourself you've been afraid to become. That future version of you is waiting for you to change the narrative. That's why affirmations matter. That's why your inner dialogue matters. This isn't about delusion. It's not about ignoring your past. It's about no longer letting your past be louder than your potential. It's about interrupting the patterns that have kept you circling the same mountain year after year. Every time you speak a better story over your life, you're laying the foundation for something greater. You're literally reshaping your identity. And when your identity changes, your standards change. When your standards change, your results change. And when your results change, your whole life starts to reflect the story you've chosen to believe. Maybe you've failed before. Maybe you've messed up 1,000 times. But what if instead of calling yourself a failure, you told yourself, "I'm relentless"? What if instead of saying, "I always quit," you said, "I'm getting stronger every day"? What if instead of living in shame, you started speaking grace and power over your journey? Do you understand how powerful that would be? It would change everything, because what you focus on, you amplify. What you believe, you manifest. What you say, you become. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We rise to the level of our identity. An identity is forged by the story you tell yourself daily. So if your story has been small, now is the time to expand it. If your story has been filled with fear, now is the time to inject faith. If your story has been shaped by other people's opinions, now is the time to claim your own voice. Because nobody is coming to rewrite that story for you. That's your job, that's your power, and that's your responsibility. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need a better narrative. You need to look yourself in the mirror and start speaking life, even when it feels awkward, even when you don't fully believe it yet, because the repetition of the new story begins to override the old one. Every time you say, "I've got what it takes," you're laying a new neural pathway. Every time you say, "I'm worthy of love," you're chipping away at that old shame. Every time you say, "My future is bigger than my past," you're anchoring your identity to hope, not hurt. And over time, that story becomes who you are. You'll start walking different. You'll start talking different. You'll stop settling for less, not because someone told you to, but because your story doesn't allow you to anymore. You'll no longer tolerate chaos because your story is now one of peace. You'll no longer chase validation because your story is now rooted in self-worth. You'll no longer shrink to make others comfortable because your story is about rising, not hiding. And here's what's wild. Once your story changes, your environment starts to shift too. The way people respond to you changes. The opportunities you attract change. Not because the world became easier, but because you became aligned with the version of you who's ready to walk in your purpose. So the next time that old voice tries to creep in, the one that says you're not enough, that you always screw things up, that you'll never be free, I want you to interrupt it. I want you to speak back. I want you to declare a better story, one that aligns with who you're becoming, not who you used to be, because your life will reflect the words you believe. You can either let your story keep you imprisoned, or you can let it set you free. You are the storyteller. You are the voice. You are the main character and the narrator. And the greatest plot twist in your life starts the moment you stop repeating the lies and start speaking the truth. The story you tell yourself is the life you live. Make it legendary. There's a moment in every powerful story where everything seems lost, where the hero is broken, where the situation looks impossible. That moment, the one where everything falls apart, is what most people call the end. But let me tell you something most people forget. Pain is never the end. Pain is the plot twist. It's the moment in the story that sets up everything else. It's the turning point, not the conclusion, but only if you choose to see it that way. You see, life doesn't break you because it enjoys seeing you suffer. Life breaks you to build you. It wounds you not to destroy you, but to wake you up, to shake something loose inside of you, to make you look deeper, feel deeper, grow deeper. Most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid pain, numb pain, run from pain. But what if pain was the thing that could finally set you free? What if that heartbreak, that loss, that betrayal wasn't your undoing, but your unlocking? Nobody wants to hurt. Nobody wants to suffer. But if you're honest, the greatest growth in your life didn't come from the easy chapters. It didn't come when everything was going your way. It came in the fire. It came when life knocked you down and you had to claw your way back to your feet. It came when you were bleeding and broken and alone, and you decided to keep going anyway. That's where greatness is born. That's where confidence is built. That's where your true identity is forged. Pain is the proof that you've lived. It's the evidence that you've cared, that you've tried, that you've risked. And the people who have the deepest impact in this world are not the ones who have never been hurt. They're the ones who have transformed their pain into power. They're the ones who didn't let the plot twist become the ending. They flipped the script. They said, "This is not where my story stops. This is where it starts to mean something." But you've got to make that choice, because pain by itself doesn't transform you. Pain can make you bitter, or it can make you better. It can paralyze you, or it can fuel you. It can trap you in the past, or it can launch you into your future. The difference isn't in the pain, it's in how you interpret it, how you respond, what you decide that pain is going to mean. Too many people build an identity around their suffering. They wear their wounds like badges of hopelessness. They become addicted to the story of their pain, and they don't even realize they're letting that pain write the ending of their story in permanent ink. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can rip that page out. You can write a new ending, and you do it by deciding that your pain was not in vain, that your pain is going to serve you, not suffocate you. Maybe you've been through hell. Maybe you've cried yourself to sleep more nights than you can count. Maybe you've lost people you loved or made mistakes you swore you never would. Maybe life has felt like one long chapter of disappointment after another. But the fact that you're still here means the story isn't over. The fact that you woke up this morning means the next chapter hasn't been written yet, and the pen is still in your hand. That's the truth most people forget. You can't control everything that's happened to you, but you get to control what it means, and meaning is everything. The moment you decide that your pain has a purpose, it changes. It stops being a weight and starts becoming a weapon. You begin to use it, to teach from it, to lead with it, to live through it with passion and power. You are not the thing that broke you. You are not the failure, the trauma, the shame. You are not the divorce, the addiction, the betrayal. You are the one who survived it, and surviving it means you get to tell the story differently. You get to use what hurt you to heal someone else. You get to carry the wisdom forward. You get to rise, even if you're rising slowly, even if you're rising with scars. Because scars don't mean you're weak. They mean you've healed, and healing doesn't always look like perfection. Sometimes healing looks like continuing, like showing up, like choosing to believe there's still beauty on the other side of the battle. Sometimes healing means crying and walking forward at the same time. But whatever it looks like for you, just know this. Your healing is allowed to be messy. What matters is that you don't stop moving. There are going to be days where the pain feels bigger than your purpose, where the voice in your head says, "You'll never come back from this." And on those days, I want you to remind yourself, this is the plot twist, not the final scene. This is the part where everything starts to change. This is the part where the person I was breaks open and the person I'm becoming begins to emerge. Don't let that inner voice convince you that broken means finished. Sometimes broken just means becoming. What if the version of you you've been praying for can only be unlocked through this pain? What if everything you've asked for, strength, depth, resilience, power, was waiting on the other side of the very thing you've been trying to avoid? What if pain isn't the punishment? It's the preparation that changes the way you walk through it. You stop asking, "Why me?" and you start asking, "What is this making of me?" You stop begging for it to end and start searching for the lesson. You stop fighting the fire and start letting it refine you, because some versions of you have to die so better ones can rise. Some dreams have to be delayed so bigger ones can be born. Some relationships have to break so your real ones can begin. And all of that hurts, but pain is not the enemy. Pain is the tool. Pain is the teacher. Pain is the plot twist that introduces the next, more powerful version of your life. You've got to believe that. You've got to hold on to it when it feels like everything is falling apart. You've got to remind yourself that some of the most powerful people you've ever admired didn't get that way because their life was easy. They got that way because they refused to let the pain be the end. They made it the foundation. They built something with it. They turned it into greatness, and so can you. You have what it takes to rewrite the meaning of your pain. You don't have to wait for the world to tell you it's okay. You don't have to wait for the apology that never comes. You don't have to wait to feel ready. All you have to do is decide that you're not going to let what broke you keep you broken. Decide that you're not going to let what hurt you define you. Decide that you're not going to carry the weight of your past like a curse, but lift it like a crown. You're still here. That means there's more. That means your story still has chapters that haven't been told yet. That means there's strength in you that pain tried to cover up. That means this isn't the end. This is the twist. So stand up. Breathe deep. Square your shoulders and write the next chapter with a fire that comes from knowing. Pain didn't break you. It introduced you to who you really are. Pain is the plot twist, not the ending, and you're just getting started. Most people live their entire lives trapped inside a version of themselves that was never meant to be permanent. They've allowed who they were at their lowest point, their weakest moment, or their most broken season to become the identity they carry every day. And because they never challenge that version, they build a life around a false sense of self. But here's the truth that can change everything. Your identity is not set in stone. Who you've been does not have to determine who you become. The version of you that made mistakes, the one that gave up, the one that felt weak, the one that let fear run the show, that version is not your destiny. That version is not your ceiling. That version is just a snapshot in time. It's not your full story. But as long as you keep identifying with that version, you'll keep repeating the same patterns. Not because that's who you are, but because that's who you believe you are. And there's nothing more powerful or more dangerous than identity. Because identity drives behavior, identity sets your standards, identity defines your decisions. If deep down you believe I'm undisciplined, then even if you try to wake up early, go to the gym, build a business, you'll sabotage it. Not because you're lazy, but because your subconscious identity is dragging you back to what's familiar. If you believe I'm not worthy of love, you'll reject every good relationship that comes your way. Not because you want to be alone, but because your inner story doesn't match that love. If you believe I always quit, you'll subconsciously find a way to give up every time things get hard. And none of it is because you're broken. It's because the identity you've accepted doesn't align with the life you want. But here's what most people don't realize. Identity isn't fixed, it's fluid, it's moldable. You can shift it, you can reshape it, you can transform it. If you're willing to challenge the story, your identity is not tattooed on your soul. It's not locked into your DNA. It's a story you've rehearsed so many times that it feels like truth. But it's not truth, it's conditioning, it's repetition, and the same way you built the old identity, you can build a new one. You build identity through action, through decision, through the story you tell yourself over and over again until your mind has no choice but to believe it. You don't change identity by thinking harder. You change identity by acting like the person you want to become, even when it feels awkward, even when it feels fake, even when the old voice is screaming that it's not you. That voice is lying. That voice is just the echo of an old version of you trying to stay alive. But that version, it's expired, it's outdated, it's not equipped for the life you're stepping into. It served its purpose in a past season, but now it's just noise. And if you want to grow, if you want to rise, you're going to have to let that version die, not out of shame, not out of guilt, but out of evolution, because every new level of your life demands a new version of you. A stronger version, a more honest version, a more aligned version, and yes, that transition is uncomfortable. Of course it is. You've been walking around in that old identity for years. It's familiar. It feels safe even when it hurts, even when it's sabotaging your future. But let me ask you, how long are you going to let comfort steal your calling? How long are you going to stay loyal to a version of you that's keeping you stuck? Because every time you say, "That's just the way I am," you're putting up a wall between who you are and who you could be. You're reinforcing the limits that have already robbed you of too many years, too many dreams, too many breakthroughs. What if instead you started asking a better question, not who have I always been, but who do I want to become? What if you stopped obsessing over what's familiar and started creating what's possible? What if, for once, you gave yourself permission to step into the future without dragging the past along with you? That's when the shift begins. That's when you start to rewire the identity that's been on autopilot. You begin to say things like, "I'm a finisher, I'm a disciplined person, I'm resilient, I'm strong, I'm worthy of love, I'm a leader, I'm becoming someone better every single day." And even if you don't fully believe it yet, say it anyway, because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a truth and a repeated thought. The more you say it, the more you reinforce it. The more you reinforce it, the more you act in alignment with it. And the more you act in alignment, the more it becomes real. Identity is built by consistency, not convenience. You don't wait until you feel like the new you. You act like it, you choose it, you speak it. You live it one moment, one day, one decision at a time, and that new identity, it starts showing up in how you carry yourself, in what you tolerate, in the energy you bring, in the people you attract, in the decisions you make when nobody's watching. Some of the most powerful people you've ever looked up to weren't born with special abilities. They just decided not to be owned by their past identity anymore. They got sick of living small. They got tired of seeing greatness in the mirror and choosing mediocrity in action. They drew a line in the sand and said, "I'm not going back." And then they backed that line up with discipline, with focus, with relentless repetition of a better narrative. You can do the same, no matter how long you've been stuck, no matter how deep the old story runs, no matter how many mistakes you've made. You can begin again, you can rise again. You can become someone the old version of you wouldn't even recognize. Not because you're fake, not because you're pretending, but because you're finally being honest about who you were always meant to be. And yes, people might not get it. They might say you've changed. Good. That's the whole point. You were never meant to stay the same. Growth is supposed to look like transformation. If the people around you don't recognize the new you, that's okay. They weren't assigned to your next chapter. This isn't about proving anything to them. This is about remembering the truth you've always known deep down. You were built for more. Stop letting the old story define your future. Stop letting who you were disqualify who you're becoming. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not your labels. You are not your trauma. You are not your fears. You are a masterpiece under construction. You are a warrior in progress. You are the author of your life, and you can rewrite your identity starting right now. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need anyone to believe in it but you. You just need to decide. Decide that you're no longer going to be held hostage by who you were. Decide that from this moment forward, every choice, every word, every thought is going to align with the identity you've chosen, not the one you inherited. You've outgrown the old version, you've evolved, now it's time to live like it. So when the old voice tries to creep back in, the one that says, "You'll always be this way, you'll never change, this is just who you are," I want you to speak back with power. I want you to remind yourself that your identity is not set in stone, that you have the power to shift, to evolve, to rise. You were not created to stay the same. You were created to transform. You were created to grow. And that growth, it starts now. Your words are not just sounds. They're not just letters strung together. They are seeds. Every word you speak plants something in your mind, in your spirit, in your reality. Whether you realize it or not, your life is the harvest of the words you've spoken to yourself and about yourself. That inner dialogue, the conversations you have when no one else is listening, are constructing the walls, building the ceiling, paving the path of your life. Words shape worlds, and if you want a different world, you have to start with different words. There's power in your mouth. There's a force in your voice. The same way a storm can start with a whisper of wind, the direction of your life can shift with the sound of a single sentence. The challenge is, most people are speaking their fears instead of their future. They're speaking defeat instead of destiny. They're repeating what went wrong instead of declaring what can go right. And they don't even realize they're building a prison around themselves with every sentence. When you constantly say things like, "I'm just not good at that," or "I never catch a break," or "that's just not in the cards for me," you're reinforcing a limitation. You are commanding your reality to match your doubt. You're not describing your life. You're scripting it, and life is listening. Your brain is listening. Your subconscious is taking notes and adjusting your behavior to match the story you're telling. Speak weakness long enough, and you'll start acting weak. Speak fear long enough, and you'll start walking in hesitation. Speak lack long enough, and abundance will start running from you. But here's the most beautiful, transformative truth. The moment you change the words, you start changing the world around you. Your language can be the steering wheel to a new destiny that's not self-help fluff, it's neurological reality. The words you speak create the framework for how your brain interprets life. When you say, "I'm learning," instead of "I'm failing," your brain starts searching for growth. When you say, "I'm capable," instead of "I can't," your brain begins looking for solutions. When you say, "My best days are ahead of me," something inside you starts to rise, starts to align, starts to prepare for more. You are the narrator of your life, and your words are writing the script. The question is, are you writing a story you actually want to live out? Are you speaking in a way that matches your dreams? Or are you speaking like someone who's already given up? Because your language will either pull your future toward you or push it further away, there is no neutral. Every word is movement, every phrase is direction, every sentence is construction or destruction. And that's why you have to get intentional. You can't afford to be casual with your language. You can't afford to repeat phrases just because they sound honest or dramatic or relatable. "I'm broke," "I'm tired," "I always lose," "I'm so unlucky." Those phrases might feel real, but they are robbing your potential. They are agreements with a reality you don't want, and the more you agree with it, the more you live in it. But when you start shifting that language, even slightly, everything starts to shift. When you say, "I'm figuring it out," instead of "I'm lost," you give yourself permission to grow. When you say, "I'm preparing for better," instead of "nothing ever works out," you create space for breakthrough. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about aligning with what you want, not what you fear. It's about speaking the version of you you're becoming, not the version you're trying to outgrow. That's how transformation begins. Not with a job offer, not with a relationship, not with more money or more time or more opportunity. It begins with the voice in your mouth. That voice is your most powerful tool, your most sacred weapon. It is the bridge between your current self and your future self, and you have to use it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your confidence is built in your vocabulary. Your resilience is reinforced by your declarations. Your identity is shaped by what you say about yourself, especially when no one else is around. You want to change your self-worth, change how you talk to yourself. Start speaking life. Start declaring truth. Start calling out the greatness within you even before it's fully visible, because you can't become what you can't speak. You'll never rise into a life you're afraid to verbalize. Some people are so afraid of sounding arrogant that they never speak their vision. But there's a difference between arrogance and alignment. Arrogance says, I don't need to grow. Alignment says, I am growing, I am learning, I am becoming. And you have to be bold enough to speak that, even if your current situation doesn't match it yet. You've got to speak healing while you're still hurting. You've got to speak strength while you're still shaking. You've got to speak purpose while you're still confused. That's the kind of faith that reshapes the future. And yes, it will feel awkward at first. You've been rehearsing self-doubt and insecurity for years. Speaking life will feel unnatural in the beginning. You'll feel like you're pretending, but that's not pretending. That's practicing. That's retraining your brain, reprogramming your thoughts, and rewriting your narrative. You've already been conditioned by repetition. Now it's time to use repetition to rise. Say it when you wake up. Say it when you feel fear creeping in. Say it when you're tempted to give up. Say it when no one else believes in you, because eventually what you say becomes what you see. You are planting seeds with every sentence, and harvest is coming. If you want a different harvest, plant different seeds. So what does that sound like? It sounds like this: I am more than my past. I am worthy of abundance. I am not afraid to grow. I am not afraid to lead. I am not waiting for permission. I am walking in purpose now. I am not my mistakes. I am not my fears. I am capable. I am powerful. I am focused. I am built for the life I want. I don't shrink for anyone. I am bold. I am disciplined. I am enough. And the most powerful thing, you don't even have to feel it all yet. You just have to say it. Speak it until you start believing it. Believe it until you start embodying it. Embody it until you start living it. That's how you rewrite your future. That's how you become the person your potential has been screaming for. You have a voice. Use it like a weapon. Use it like a shield. Use it like a sword that cuts through every lie you've ever believed. Use it to silence the voice that says you can't. Use it to kill the doubt that says you're not enough. Use it to break through every wall that ever stood between you and the life you were meant to live. And when the world tries to label you, when the pain tries to define you, when the past tries to drag you back, you speak louder. You speak clearer. You speak with fire, because you are not just speaking for today. You are speaking for your future. You are speaking for the legacy you want to leave. You are speaking for the people who will one day say, because they didn't quit, I didn't quit either. Your voice has that kind of power, but you must choose it. You must claim it. You must speak it, even when it feels like no one's listening, because the most important person who hears your words is you. And the story you speak is the life you live. Your tongue is your tool. Use it to build something unshakable. Use it to shape a world where the best version of you finally gets to show up, because that version is already inside of you, just waiting to be called out. Words shape worlds, so speak your new future, and never stop speaking it, until the world has no choice but to rise and meet the sound of your voice. You don't get to choose whether you leave a legacy. That's already happening, right now, with every decision you make, every action you take, every word you speak. You're writing the story they'll tell about you when you're gone. Most people think legacy is something that happens later. When they're older, when they've accomplished something huge, when they've made millions, won trophies, or built empires. But that's not how legacy works. Legacy isn't just what you leave behind when you die. Legacy is what you're living right now. Every moment of your life is leaving fingerprints on the world. You are influencing people, shaping memories, making an impact, whether you know it or not. The question is not, am I building a legacy? The question is, What kind of legacy am I building? Because even silence leaves a mark, even procrastination becomes part of the story, even hesitation becomes a paragraph in the book of your life. So if you're waiting for some perfect moment to start becoming the person you were meant to be, let me wake you up. The moment is now. This moment, this breath, this decision, there is no pause button on your legacy. You're always building it. Even on the days you feel like nothing is happening, even when you're tired, even when you're lost. Even when you think no one's watching, someone is. Someone's watching how you handle pressure. Someone's watching how you talk to yourself. Someone's watching how you treat people when there's nothing in it for you. That someone might be your child, your friend, your partner, a stranger who looks up to you, and they're learning something from you right now. The way you show up is teaching someone else what's possible for them. So if you're thinking, I'm not where I want to be yet, good. That means you're still in the story. That means you still have chapters to write. That means it's not over. But don't confuse progress with waiting. Don't convince yourself that you have time to waste. You don't. None of us do. The clock is ticking whether you step into your greatness or not. But here's the truth. Legacy isn't measured in years. It's measured in impact. And impact happens in moments. It happens in the way you love, the way you lead, the way you fight through what others would surrender to. It happens in the way you respond to adversity, in the way you lift others even while you're still climbing. You don't have to be perfect to leave something powerful behind. You don't need fame. You don't need fortune. You just need intention. You need to show up to life like it matters, because it does. You need to wake up each day knowing that the way you live is shaping a ripple that echoes into eternity. Your energy, your attitude, your discipline, your kindness, your fire, they all become part of the legacy you leave. And legacy, my friend, is not about what people say when you're gone. It's about what people feel because you lived. But let me challenge you. If your story ended today, what would they say? Would they talk about your excuses or your execution? Would they remember your dreams or your discipline? Would they recall your fears or your fight? This is not a guilt trip. This is a gut check. Because the truth is, your future is being decided by your daily habits. Your destiny is being shaped by what you tolerate. Your legacy is being carved by how you live when no one's clapping for you. So what if, starting today, you lived like your legacy depended on this day? What if you stopped waiting for a platform and realized your platform is your life? What if you treated your moments like they mattered? Because they do. What if you made your life a message so powerful that it echoed through the hearts of people who never even met you? That's the kind of life that changes generations. That's the kind of life that speaks even after you're gone. And let me tell you something else. Your pain is part of your legacy, not because it defines you, but because of what you did with it. Some of the most powerful legacies aren't built on comfort. They're built on resilience. They're built on rising after you've been broken. They're built on choosing purpose over bitterness. If you've been through something, you have the potential to leave something even greater behind. Because scars tell stories, and the way you heal is the way you help others heal. There's someone out there right now who needs the strength you're building in silence. There's someone who will one day say, because they didn't quit, I didn't quit either. Legacy isn't loud. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes legacy looks like being faithful when no one's watching. Sometimes it looks like showing up to work on yourself when quitting would be easier. Sometimes it looks like telling the truth when lying would protect your ego. Sometimes it's as quiet as love, as consistent as service, as invisible as courage, but it's always powerful. You've got a fire inside you. Maybe the world hasn't seen it yet. Maybe you haven't even seen it fully yet. But it's there. It's in the way you care, the way you keep getting back up, the way your heart refuses to go numb, the way you're still here, still fighting, still believing that more is possible. That fire is part of your legacy. Don't let it go out. Start speaking to yourself like someone who is building something that will outlast them. Start living like your life is the blueprint for someone else's breakthrough, because it is. The way you love, the way you persevere, the way you take ownership of your choices. It's inspiring someone. You may never know who. You may never hear them say it. But your courage is a light, and lights don't need recognition to shine. They just need to be lit, so light it up. Light it up with your passion, light it up with your values, light it up with your actions. Don't let fear write your story. Don't let regret hold the pen. Don't let the opinions of small thinkers shrink the life you were born to live. You've got this moment, this precious, powerful moment. What are you going to do with it? Complain, shrink, delay, or build? Build with fire, build with purpose. Build with intention so intense it makes average people uncomfortable. Build something that demands your best and brings out your boldness. And if you're thinking, but who am I to leave a legacy? You are exactly the kind of person legacy is made for. Not someone who has it all figured out. Not someone with a perfect resume, but someone who chooses to show up fully, who chooses to live with heart, who chooses to be remembered not for how easy their life was, but for how hard they loved, how deeply they fought, and how fiercely they believed. That's what changes the world, not perfection. Presence, not control. Conviction, not applause impact. Your legacy is not about the spotlight. It's about who you were in the shadows. It's about what you did when no one was watching. It's about who you became when life tried to break you. And it's about the people who will rise because you decided to rise. So let this moment be the one where everything changes. Not because of some external breakthrough, but because you broke through. Because you decided that your life matters too much to waste. Because you stopped pretending to be small. Because you stopped delaying your destiny. Because you finally realized that you don't need more time. You need more truth. And the truth is, your legacy is being written right now with every breath, every step, every choice. So make it count.